All right, folks, it's about 1 minute after, and I thought we'd get things rolling here. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jim Fogler, president of the Florida Press Association, and welcome and thank you for joining us as we look to help our business partners better tell their story. This three-part VIP roundtable series is presented by FNAME, and I'm going to keep my remarks real short so we can get right into this discussion and get Mike going. But before we begin, I have a few short announcements. First off, I would like to recognize our sponsors. They were in the slide earlier: Blue Toad, Preferred Marketing Solutions, and our very own Intersect Media. Please mark your calendars for our next VIP Roundtable, which is being held on September 17th, and this will be the third of this special Growing Revenue three-part series. And it will be an advertiser panel with a few marketing folks who are making those important media buying decisions. Small reminder that this session is being recorded, and if you have any questions, please feel free to use our chat feature and Mike will get to as many as he can. And now, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Local IQ's General Sales Manager at the Palm Beach Post, and he's FNAME, that's a mouthful, President Patrick Fuentes. He will be our moderator this afternoon, and we'll be introducing our guest. So without further ado, Patrick, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Jim. And thanks, everybody, for being on this part two of our three-part series presented by FNAME. We're very excited today to introduce our guest, so I'll go ahead and do that. It's going to be a great session. So Mike Centerani joins us today to talk about how we can help business owners tell their unique story. Mike comes to us with over 25 years of experience in the traditional media, along with over 15 years in the digital space. He was selected by Google in 2011 to train on behalf of their Google Premier Partners program, and also was a certified speaker for their Micro Moments training in 2016. I have had the pleasure of working with Mike for the last 13 years. So again, I'm very excited on what he's going to share today. I think you'll all find a lot of value in it. Without further ado, Mike Centerani, take us away.
Thank you, Patrick. Good seeing you again as well. And thanks everybody for inviting me. We had a session earlier this morning, and one of the things that I said during that session, I'll kind of repeat myself here, is a goal would be to try to have it set up where you guys, after today's session, could walk away with 2 to 3 things that you could start using tomorrow. Very tactical things, so that if you're a sales manager, an ad director, a VP of sales, or a sales rep, you could go out and start talking to business owners tomorrow and maybe start using some of the things that we're going to talk about. Maybe kind of a little bit of a quick caution. A lot of the things that we'll share with you might not be traditional sales things that you've heard in the past. I was really lucky to be able to do an experiment back in 1996, working for one of the largest media companies in the US, able to do an experiment on the sales call process to just see if we could find a better way to interact with business owners. And I won't bore you with the whole story, but a quick part of it, which was really cool here, is we had a great product. There isn't anybody that would have denied that our product was really good. The problem is that when you started to talk to a lot of our clients or our customers, they didn't necessarily like how we presented to them. They didn't like how we brought it to market. We used to hear things over and over again, like, we hate your salespeople. We hate your sales process. I was joking this morning's group, but it's a true story where one of our biggest clients said, "I'd rather work with the IRS than you." And that's not good, right? So obviously when you hear something like that, that is a red flag that says we better do something different. So it's one of those right place, right times moment where I raised my hand and said, would it be possible for me to go out and try to find a different sales process? And they loved that idea. I threw that at a bunch of the vice presidents, and they said, well, what do you got in mind? I said, there's probably 10 or 11 or 12 or more good sales processes out there. Let me go find the best one for us, and then we'll customize it for media. So we did. And what was really cool about that was that by the time I got to about the 6th or 7th certification, it was interesting. They were all copying the same guy in one way, shape, or form or another. Everybody seemed to be copying a company called the Huthwaite Institute. And the Huthwaite Institute was invented by a guy named Neil Rackham in 1974 in London, England. And Rackham was a research psychologist. He's a brilliant guy, and his claim to fame was that his research company had observed more sales calls than anybody in the history of sales. And he could actually back it up. They observed over 35,000 sales calls in a 12-year period. And he started his program to really go after Fortune 500 companies to do kind of like a best practices monitoring. Like, let's go out, we'll watch what your guys are doing, we'll take the best of the best, and then we'll try to come up with the single best sales process. And most people would say that he did, because almost everybody from, you know, professional selling skills to Sandler to Miller Hyman, and I could just keep going on, but everybody copied him. He was the guy who really invented the needs assessment. You know, prior to him, a lot of the books on selling were all about closing techniques. He really was the one that found that for major sales, for something that was, you know, more than you would just go in to buy a pack of gum, you know, or a pack of cigarettes or something like that, where it might be more of a transactional type of a sale. He was the guy that kind of figured out that if it's going to be a bigger, larger sale, you got to first of all find out what's going on first, and then try to match a solution with a need. So he's the guy that kind of gets the credit for that. So I went through his program twice, because after we went through it for the first time, a lot of the stuff that he talked about didn't work as well as we were hoping it would work in the street, in the real world. And it was interesting. Once we felt like we had a process that we wanted to try to take to market, we tested it first. And the place that we chose was Brooklyn, New York. No offense to the fine people of Brooklyn, New York, not the most patient people on the planet. You walk in any business there, you call them on the phone, and you got 5 seconds to get it done and forward you up. So we had to figure out, how do we start an interaction, especially for prospecting, which I know a lot of you would like to get some tips on that today. So I'll make sure I throw those in there too. How do you walk into a door? How do you pick up the phone and get a conversation started with somebody who's never done business with you before? And the one interesting part about Brooklyn was they're not real shy. And if they don't think you have anything worthwhile, they'll let you know pretty quickly. And we were kicked out of a lot of doors. And a lot of it, believe it or not, was following verbatim kind of what we were taught with all those different sales processes, especially with Neil Rackham's and Huthways. He's the guy, by the way, who wrote the book Spin Selling that some of you might be familiar with. And it was interesting because the reason I went back down there the second time, he's got a company in Leesburg, Virginia, too. And if you're ever interested, it's a really great program to go through. But they admittedly said to me when I went through the program the second time that there were some pretty major flaws in their process. And one of them was right there in those first 30 seconds, 45 seconds, minute and a half, 2 minutes. You know, true or false, that's a really tricky part of the sales interaction. If you don't win that person you're talking to over within that amount of time, they may hang up on you right there. Or you walk in the door, you could be kind of escorted out pretty quickly if you don't get out of the blocks really well. And when I went back down and started to talk to those guys about it, we told them that. I said, look, we're here in Brooklyn, and we chose Brooklyn for a reason, because we felt like if we could make it work there, we could make it work anywhere. And they agreed. They said, oh, you picked a good spot. But they also said, too, and Rackham actually has this in his book, we call it call opening. He calls it preliminaries, but it's that first couple of minutes of the interaction, right? He actually says in his book, we didn't find preliminaries particularly interesting, therefore we didn't spend much time on it, which is kind of a mind-blowing statement if you think about that. You know, think about the last time you went prospecting and you walked in, and if you didn't get out of the blocks really well, did the rest of that conversation go well? So for Huthway, their whole thing was get into that needs assessment. If you get into the needs assessment, you might refer to it as a needs analysis or a needs evaluation or discovery, all kind of the same thing. If you don't get out of the blocks really well, you don't get to that step, right? And that was kind of our point, is we're having a really tough time getting there. So what do you guys suggest? And the exact comment that I got from one of their top trainers was, yeah, that's really hard. And we kind of joked and laughed when he said, yeah, we know that. That's why we came back down. What kind of tips do you have for us? And his reply again was, that's just really difficult. So I remember going back to Brooklyn and meeting with my team. And they're like, what'd he say? I said, he said it was really difficult. They're like, okay, so what do we do? So we had to go figure it out ourselves. We had to go back out in the street and really figure it out. Now, I'm never going to claim that we were the smartest group in the world, but we were pretty good listeners. And almost every time we'd walk into a business in Brooklyn, they would say the same thing to us. You don't know anything about my business, get out. You don't know a darn thing about my business, get out. Some of them use more colorful language than that, but you get what I'm saying. We were kicked out pretty quickly within the first couple of minutes, over and over again with the same theme. you don't know anything about my business. And it was interesting because one of us, I think over a pint of beer at this Irish pub we used to hang out at night, said, you know what if we started knowing a little bit more about their business before we walked in? I thought, well, that's a good idea. Let's try that one. So I'm going to show you how we kind of got to that place to be able to get more appointments. That's one goal I would have for you guys today. If we can give you some good tactical stuff so you can, starting tomorrow, get more appointments with new prospects, that hopefully could help you out a lot. And then second, even with your existing clients, how do you get back in and have a deeper conversation to make sure that whatever you're offering them is the right thing, right? It's going to work for them. And that kind of led us to some different mantras as we went through this. You know, the idea was this: is it about making it a sale, or is it about making the right sale? And then this is worthwhile staying on this subject for another 60 seconds, because I think I can almost make the argument that you could make a sale a million different ways to any kind of a business owner. But if it doesn't work, are they going to renew that with you in the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, 6 months from now, a year from now? Are they going to keep buying from you? Are you going to get the trusted advisor status? If a competitor walked in with a shinier object, could they steal that client from you? So those are all the things to kind of think about when you're asking yourself, is it really about making a sale, or is it about making the right sale? And our mantra kind of became, we got to do this thing the right way. Even to the point, this might even seem extreme, but even to the point where if it's not the right sale, walk away. You know, it's better for your credibility to walk away, even to be able to say to the business owner, Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner, based on the goals and objectives that you have, or based on the demand of the marketplace, or the amount of competition, whatever it is, to honestly be able to assess that and say, I don't know if we can help you or not. I will tell you, you probably already figured out that I'm really, really, really old. Not a lot of advantages to that, but one of the advantages of being old is that after tens of thousands of sales calls all over the world, you start to figure out pretty quickly, who you can help and who you can't. And following the approach that I'm going to walk you through next, it's probably less than 1% of the businesses we've ever talked to, or at the end, we really felt like we couldn't help them. There were those cases, but they're really rare. So most of the time we just got to figure out how to engage, how to get out of the blocks, and figure out what is it that they're trying to do so we can help them. And that's not easy. When I was working with Google, I had the opportunity to be in front of about 46 different media companies in 22 countries. So I was all over the world. And it was really interesting because when I watched those media companies, almost every one of them did a great job in the product training. I think our company does a great job in product training. Some companies had a sales call process and some didn't. It was interesting. Some would have like a 4-step process, or a 5-step, or a 6-step. Neil Rackham's process was 4 steps. His was preliminaries, needs assessment, demonstration of capability, and close. And ours isn't that much different. We actually count planning and preparation as a step. Rackham doesn't say don't plan and prepare. He just doesn't call it as a step. He actually starts it from the time you start interacting with somebody. So, ours is more like a 5-step process. And we saw all kinds of variations of that, but it was all pretty similar. It was interesting, though, because whether or not they were really well trained in the product, or whether or not they were really well trained in a sales process, in today's world in 2020, almost none of them were prepared to talk to this guy right here, the guy you see on your screen. And this would be a good question to ask yourself. So if you're a sales rep, can you handle this guy? Do you know how to get an appointment with him? And if you're a sales manager, think about your sales reps just for a second. Can they interact with this guy? Would they be able to get 60 seconds, 2 minutes of his attention? And the reason we bring this guy up is because in today's world, there's just so many of these guys now, and there's a reason for it. It's not because business owners are just automatically mean. That's not the point we're trying to make. The point is that they're getting inundated by people like us every single day. If you go by some of the statistics that Gordon Burrell talks about, he even found out, I think it was pretty close to this, that in 2019, there was a range, depending upon what kind of business you were or where you were in the United States. The average business owner in America today gets called on an average between 25 and 83 times a month by a media rep. Can you imagine that? And they're all trying to sell the same stuff. Now, by the way, if you were a auto dealership, that would be about 83 times a month. Can you imagine what that's got to be like, trying to call on an auto dealer? Hey, I'd like to talk to you about your advertising. Really? Well, I haven't had anybody do that in a while, except 4 times today already. So it's, and the other thing that makes this really, really hard, and you guys know what I'm talking about because you're living it every day too, we're all offering the same stuff. So, if we're talking about traditional media, which is really, TV, radio, newspaper, magazine, I think we could probably take Yellow Pages out of there today, although there's still some directory companies, direct mail. I don't have outdoor on there, but that would be another one. But then I could probably fill up 7 screens with all the other stuff that's available, right? I don't even, in my own company, I couldn't even tell you the exact number of solutions we got. I think it's like 50 or 60, something like that. But and we've got everything, from websites to profile pages, mobile, video, social, search. I mean, you name it, we've got it, right? But here's the really tough part. So does everybody else. So, I go into a marketplace and I might work with a TV station, for an example, or I'd work with a newspaper or a radio station or a direct mail company. It didn't matter, whoever I was working with, I would ask them, why would somebody choose you? And they go, well, I'll tell you why, because of our audience. Look at all the different things we've got to offer. And I always ended up being the bearer of bad news when I would say, you do know that the radio station across the street has a lot of this stuff too, right? You do know that the TV station offers this stuff too. And they were always shocked by that. Like, really? They offer all this? Yes, everybody does. And the other thing that's funny is like, we're all using the same people. So it's the same vendors. Whenever I would go to like a Kelsey conference or a local media association conference or Burrell conference, whatever, it would be all these guys from Google and Yahoo and Bing and local listings guys, guys from Yext or you name it. People from YouTube are there. People from Facebook are there. People from Instagram and Snapchat and LinkedIn are there. It's all the same guys. They're always all at the same conferences. And I, have a beer with them at the end of the conference and they'd be cracking up laughing because they would say, everybody thinks when they're selling our stuff that they're unique. They have no idea that 10 people in their own little town are all selling the same stuff. They have no idea. And so I'd always throw this question back at you guys, which would be, why you then? If we're all selling the exact same stuff, why should they choose you? The most common answers I always get back, well, because we're local. Well, yeah, but they are too. They're right across the street from you. Well, but we really care. Now, we really care. I know they say they care, but we really, really care. I'm being a wise guy, but it's like, you get where I'm going. It's like, okay, so the other guys don't care. How about as another goal for today's session here? Let's walk away today and let's have a reason why they should talk to us versus somebody else. That could be a really good outcome from today's session. So just to keep making it hard for right now, think about this too. I don't know if this is something that's on your radar screen, but hopefully it will be going forward. Anytime you walk into a business, starting from today on, think about where their guard is on a scale of 1 to 10. How high is it? When you introduce yourself and you say, yes, my name is from such and such a media company or newspaper, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your marketing and advertising. Where is their guard at that point? Is it along the lines of, wow, I love you guys and I can't wait to talk. I was actually hoping you'd call on me today. This is great. You want to come on in, have a cup of coffee, we'll sit down, we'll talk about it. Is that the response you're getting, or are you getting more responses of, you know what, we're pretty good right now. I've already got a guy, or I'm already working with another company. I've got an ad agency. The responses that you're getting, right? If you've never met them before, your credibility is going to be pretty low. The guard is pretty high. How do you get that guard and credibility to change? All right, I promise you by the time we get done here today, I'm going to give you a couple tips that will help you here. I'm also going to just make a quick suggestion. I don't have enough time to show this video. There's probably a lot of Simon Sinek fans listening in too. It seems like just about everybody has seen his famous video, Start With Why. It's a great video. It's about 18 minutes long. And there's a lot of great tips in there, especially if you're in sales or in marketing, you really need to watch it. But he came up with another video a few years back, and I'm going to apologize for the title. It's his title. It's not mine, but his title is Why You Suck at Sales. So if you go to YouTube and you type that in with Simon Sinek, it's about 2 minutes and 36 seconds long, but he explains why people make so many mistakes in the first 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 2 minutes of the call. And great, great, great stuff. And I would just ask you to listen to it because I've never met Simon, but I got to tell you, being an old guy and just going out there and just trial and error and tens of thousands of calls all over the world, a lot of the stuff that he found is the exact same stuff that we found, but it's not taught in sales training. So some of the stuff that I'm going to walk you through is not the stuff that traditional sales trainers talk about. And that's why I'm asking you to take a look at him. And, some people, even a lot of vice presidents that I've talked to, will listen to his video and say, I hate what he just said. Yeah, I hear you. Do you disagree with it? No, but I still hate it. All right. We can hate it all we want, but if he's right about what he's saying, then we're the ones that are going to have to make the adjustments here. Something else that Gordon Burrell helped us with last year at this time is he kind of came back and showed us also, here's what advertisers want from their media reps. So how do you get to that trusted advisor status? And one of the ones, the second bar there, was the one that we found that was identical to what Neil Rackham found. It's identical to what Gordon Burrell found. The way to win the business owners over, the number one way that we found, and nothing else was even close, was having knowledge of their business and industry. So here's tip number one. If you've got a pen handy, this would be my very first tip. If there's sales reps listening or your manager listening for your sales reps, the very next thing I would suggest that you do starting tomorrow, have them choose 3 to 4 to 5 verticals, specific types of industries where they can start to become an expert. The only criteria that I would say back when you're choosing your verticals would be this. Pick whatever verticals you want based on, you might already have some knowledge of the business and industry, so that's a little bit of a head start. So for an example, I can speak contractor fairly well. Like when anybody brings up home improvement contractors, painting contractors, HVAC contractors, roofing contractors, it could be garage door repair, whatever it is. I can speak that language fairly well. Over the years, I've spoken, it seems like just thousands of those guys. So I kind of understand their business and industry. I speak medical fairly well because talking to so many doctors and dentists over the years, I feel like I can speak legal at a fairly high percentage too. These are verticals that I feel really comfortable with. Now you might feel comfortable in completely different verticals. It doesn't matter. I was talking to a rep yesterday and she's really good when it comes to education. Well, that's a good vertical to go after too. So, but here's the second part. Also choose verticals that have money. So, I'm not saying this to be a snob or to be mean, but your time is valuable too, right? So a lot of what we've tried to do is kind of guide our reps into, why don't we look to maybe change our book of business? So I know you're spending a couple hours a week with that sweet little couple in the corner that has the antique shop who spends $150 a month with you. And I know you really love them. They're great people, but you're never going to be profitable yourself as a sales rep if you're trying to think about managing your own book of business by going after those kinds of accounts. Go after the ones that have some money. I talked to a workers' compensation attorney in Oklahoma City not that long ago. This is a $2.4 billion law firm. This is worth our time, to really talk to it. Last week, I was talking to an infectious disease center in Jacksonville, Florida, by the way. I've also recently been talking to some people who are doing COVID-19 testing, and they can do it nationwide. They've got this kind of unique way of doing it where the turnaround time is like, the same day kind of thing. And these are verticals where the more we learn about it and can speak the language, great. We're probably going to be able to get more credibility earlier on by demonstrating that. But second, we also know it's worth our time because they have money. So that would be the other criteria. So start thinking about that. In a few minutes, I'm going to show you how to prepare for those verticals so that you can learn how to speak the language and get credibility within the first couple of minutes with them. I'll demonstrate that in just a second. But the other thing that we see is kind of a trap for a lot of salespeople is that when you do walk in the door and you kind of give you a little bit of an elevator pitch, usually because the business owner is busy and they want to cut to the chase, they'll start to get you into a price product conversation right out of the blocks. And so the thing I'd ask you to do too is think about this is, do you want to do that? Do you want to start talking product and price right away? And it's interesting too, because, in the olden days, we were always kind of trained not to do that. But in today's world, there's a lot of media comes like, yeah, I want to get into that right now. I want to start talking features, benefits, fact figures, pie charts, bar charts. I want to show them that they're not ranking #1 on Google. By the way, that's probably the most common opening of every media company that I've ever seen anywhere I've worked with all over the world. Hey, by the way, Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner just came in to tell you you're not #1 on Google. By the way, you know how many times that business has probably heard that opening? So look, there's nothing wrong with trying to help them improve their ranking. When somebody's doing a search for them, that's great. And that's stuff that we should be doing. But I may be the bearer of bad news. If you think you're unique with that opening, I can pretty much promise you they've heard that 4 or 5 times already. So there might be a different way of getting to that same place where you can help them with their digital, footprint and what they're saying and who they're saying to and where they're saying it. And we'll get to that. But to get their attention with that opening, just be careful. That's all I'm going to say. You're probably not the only guy doing that. Why does this happen? So how do we get to this place? And part of this is, I'm finishing up a book on this, and I'm going to kind of cut to the chase in the end here because you can see where this is going based on the title of the book. But the title of the book is Let Them Sell You. So the whole idea behind this approach is rather than us going in right out of the blocks and start selling, if we can get them to sell us on why they're great, well, they have to love the ideas when we come back because they were actually their ideas. But I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. How did we get to the place, though, where it's like we start going in right out of the blocks and just pitching after hello? Well, a lot of this has to do, I kind of call this the perfect storm, has to do with our personality styles. And we do a class, in our company where we teach style awareness, something very similar to DISC, if you're familiar with that, or the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. And, it's really interesting. If you look at how most businesses are set up, not all of them, but most of them, most business owners become business owners because they're risk takers. And those risk takers tend to be more on what we would call the right side of the chart. These are your doers and drivers and directors. Your thinkers and analyticals, they tend to be more introverted if we're going back to MBTI. Friends and relator styles, more followers than leader types of people. Not bad people at all. We need those people, right? But they don't tend to necessarily percentage-wise be the highest percentage of business owners. Your thinker analyticals usually might be more of your accountants or your data analysts, your computer engineers. It's those kinds of folks. And again, thank God they're here because we need those folks to help us out because the guys on the right-hand side, super impatient, just want to cut right to the chase. And it's really interesting as I've been giving that test out for the years, we already know that the business owners are really impatient. But you know who else is equally impatient? Sales reps. And who's even more impatient than that? Sales managers. So if you've got sales managers who are impatient, sales reps who are impatient, business owners who are impatient, it's kind of a perfect storm. You walk in there and, taking those characteristics a couple steps further, they're more of a teller than an asker. They want to do things their way and they want to go right to the bottom line. Okay, what do you got? Well, the sales rep wants to go right to the bottom line too. Damn, what do I got? I got a lot of stuff. Let me show you what I got. And that's feature, benefit, fact, figure, pie chart, bar chart, and they try to make the quick sale. The problem is when the guy's guard is up as high as it is, and you've got no credibility, and you're automatically thrown into a price conversation, you haven't had a chance to build your case yet, you don't even know what this guy's trying to do, and you're already talking features and benefits and prices. Well, good luck trying to get sales that way. You can get sales that way, but you're not going to get that many. It's going to be small. It probably won't last long. It probably won't work. They probably won't renew, and you're definitely not going to get to trusted advisor status. And some of that, for my manager friends who are listening in, some of that, we caused that. So this is just a quick caution, but think about cause and effect. Every time you say to your rep when they leave the door in the morning, hey, you're behind on your SEM sales. I need 2 before the day's out. Just almost hear yourself saying, by the way, go straight into a pitch as soon as you say hello. If you say that to the rep is going to do that. The problem is when the business owner says, well, let's cut to the chase. How much is this going to cost? Oh, great, because I was hoping you were going to ask me that. It's an only investment of. This goes on the I want to think about it stack forever. I've got to go talk to my imaginary partner. I'm going on an African safari trip for 6 months, but call me at the end of 2021. And, the joke that I usually tell with this is that the funny part of the story is when the rep gets done with that call, the sales manager will say, how'd it go? I think I got him. I think I got this one, boss. I'm going to follow up with him. I'm a follower-upper. You know that about me. The sad part is they could follow up with this guy from now until the end of time, and the guy's never going to buy. So for managers here, if you ask your reps to do different things, you're going to get different outcomes. And so I may have a couple suggestions coming up right now here. One thing I want to put on the radar screen is this. This is something that the business owners have absolutely confirmed with us. If you want to know what they really want, here's what they want. They want a business who, number one, understands their business and industry. Nothing else is even close to that. All of you listening to this kind of already know this because true or false, some of the best conversations you ever had was where you could speak the language and they knew you could speak the language. So it's like it's 2 kindred spirits kind of speaking the same language. Your trust factor automatically goes through the roof here, right? Now, of course, you've got to know your own stuff too, right? You need to know the ins and outs of your own products. But that's not really going to matter if you don't first understand what are their business goals and objectives. What are they trying to achieve? What are they trying to sell? Who are they trying to sell it to demographically, geographically? Here's something you may have never heard before, even brought up when we talk about selling media, but are they good at it? Would you buy from them? I'll talk about that more in a few minutes, but if you wouldn't buy from them, think about that. How are we going to then sell them to the rest of the world? How are we going to put together any kind of a customized solution that's going to work? Yeah, we can sell them the platforms, right? We can sell them Google, search, SEO. We can sell them mobile. We can sell them video. We can sell them social. But eventually, you're going to have some kind of a message out there that's going to have to work, right? One of my favorite lines I hear from reps all the time is when we first start working with them, they'll be on a call with a business owner and they'll say, so, Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner, what do you want to put in your ad? Think about that just for a second, right? That'd be the same thing as if, tonight after dinner, you realize you've got a clogged sink and you can't fix it. You call the plumber and the plumber comes over and hands you their toolkit and says, here, pick something out here to fix it, right? The idea is you're hoping that they're the professional, right? You're hoping that they're going to be the ones that fixed it, not us. Right? And same thing here when we're talking to a business owner. We're going to ask a dental implant surgeon to build his own ad copy. When did he get his marketing degree? We're going to ask the landscape contractor to give us his copy. Well, how well do you think that's going to work? And if it doesn't work, are they going to renew with you again? So think about these things, right? We're the ones that are supposed to be good at this stuff. So this is what they want. And it's probably not too much to ask for. So how do we approach it? All right, starting right now, if you've got a pen handy, you might want to write this down. There's 4 things that we ask every one of our sales folks to think about before they start any interaction. And this is either with an existing client or with a new client. But we think about it from these 4 perspectives. Number 1, what do they sell? Or what do we mean by that? We say, what do they sell? We're asking, how do they make money? There could be 2 ways, 3 ways, 5 ways, 22 different ways that they make money based on profit centers or focus areas of their business. So what's the most important to them? You could walk into some where they say, like, I want all 22 to do well. Okay, that's going to be a long conversation. And we don't all have to do that in one meeting, by the way. But we do want to get a starting point, right? We got to figure out what's the number 1 profit center, what's number 2, what's number 3. That will give you a pretty good track to run on. Sometimes reps don't take the time to find that out. And it makes the conversation go all over the place, very disjointed, very disorganized. Once you know that, then the second thing you want to think about is, okay, who are they trying to target? What I think makes this process kind of difficult, and I'm the first to admit this, is that if you start to get into 3, 4, 5 different profit centers, it could be 3, 4, 5 different target groups too, with completely different geography as well. And each focus area, each profit center could almost be like a separate business. We usually recommend just start with 1 or 2 in the beginning. Don't try to do 5. It's just too much for everybody. And it's hard to stay organized when you do that. So just stick with 1 or 2. Start with the ones that are the most important. But once you know their number 1 or number 2 profit center, you know the target group they're trying to go after demographically and geographically, then what are the buying factors their potential customers care about? This is kind of our secret sauce. This is what the business owners in Brooklyn taught us. And I mean that, by the way. I'm serious about that. This is what they taught us. When we went in, not with a long elevator pitch, but we went in with laser specific, significant questions about their business from a customer standpoint. It was the single fastest way that we ever found to be able to get credibility with them. I'll demonstrate that for you in just a couple minutes. I'll give you some lyrics of what it might sound like here in just a second. And then last but not least, the other thing we think about in our preparation, do they have a USP? Do they have a unique selling proposition? It'd be tough to argue that every business shouldn't have a USP, right? Every business should have their own unique selling proposition. Now, do all of them? No. But what if you could help them find it? Then tell me how much of a trusted advisor you would become if you could help them find that, right? I know it sounds weird, but sometimes before I'm going on sales calls with reps, I was on 4 last week. We're doing a lot of them via Zoom, obviously, these days, but you can do the same sales interaction via Zoom. It's interesting. Only 1 of the 4 had a unique selling proposition. And I know how weird this sounds, but it's kind of like I start getting even more interested when I see that they don't have one, because I believe that they need me even more now. They need my help even more, because I might be the one guy that can help differentiate them from the crowd. And if I can help them do that, I know I can make their phone ring a lot more. I can have more people walk into their showroom. I can have more people call for a free estimate. I can have more people fill out their form. Whatever it is they're trying to do, I can make that happen more often if I know why they're good. I would make this argument, by the way, too. This is something that, see if I can disturb your complacency for the rest of the afternoon. One of the questions that we ask after we do a needs evaluation with a client, when we get back in the car with a rep or we hang up the phone, after we've done our full-blown needs assessment, needs evaluation, needs analysis, whatever you want to call it, with the business owner, the very first question we ask before we start trying to develop solutions for them is, what do you think about that business, Mr. and Mrs. Sales Rep? Would you buy from them? Are you sold on them? And I would make this argument. If when you ask your sales rep that at the end of a needs analysis, hey, what'd you think about that landscape contractor you were talking to? What'd you think of that dental implant surgeon? Would you hire him? Would you use that person? If that's not an emphatic yes, yes, I would. And here's exactly why. Here's 12 reasons why I would. If the sales rep can't say that, you've got nothing. There's nothing you can do for that business. I don't know if this is the first time you've ever heard this before or not, but I want that, if that is kind of disturbing your complacency a little bit, good. That's kind of what I was shooting for here. And let me continue to try to make my argument here, just to make you laugh. Okay, you all know that we're in advertising, right? You know that. That's what we do. We could say that we are digital salespeople, or we could say we're newspaper print salespeople. Personally, too much information, but I'm agnostic when it comes to the solutions. I've spent my life, especially the last 15 years, trying to become an expert on every digital product that has ever come out. I study this stuff day in and day out. I like to think that I'm somewhat of an expert in search engine optimization, search engine marketing, social media management, mobile, video, that I know this stuff at a world-class level. But after saying all that, I don't give a crap about any of it. I don't, because to me, these are just vehicles to help a business get their message out to the public in a better way, to get people to respond, to get people to reach out and say, hey, I saw your ad. I want to talk to you about this. This looks like a great service that could benefit me. Or I know that I need this service and I'm trying to decide if I buy it from you, or you. I want my guy to stand out from the crowd, whoever I'm working with. I want them to be that guy. And so my argument again would be this: if they haven't sold you, you got nothing. It doesn't mean you can't make the sale. We do it every day, sadly. Ironically, we do it every day. We make sales, but that's all we did. We made the sale. We didn't necessarily make the right sale. Will it work? Will people respond? Well, I don't know. I asked him what he wanted to put in his ad, and this is what he gave me. So what happens if it doesn't work 3 months from now? Do they blame themselves because they're the ones that gave you the copy? No, they cancel the contract with you and they stop advertising with you. It should be our job to help them tell their story, hopefully in a better way than they've ever done it before. So just think about that a little bit, okay? If you want to come back to that later on, we can, but it's a big deal for us because we want to make sure we've got it when we do that needs analysis, so we can put together ideas that will blow them away later on. Just wow them is kind of the way we look at it. So how do we start the process with this?
Hey,
Mike.
Mike.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just jump in? I think this is a really good point as you transition to that next slide, to remind everyone there's a lot that Mike is covering right now. So any of those questions that are on your mind, please use the chat, guys. Throw your questions in the chat and we'll get to those at the end of the session. All right. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. Thanks, Patrick. Because I know this is probably stuff that you don't hear every day, right? I know my working with 45 different media companies. I've never heard one sales manager ever ask the rep when they came back from the needs analysis, would you buy from them? Never, ever heard that. What I did hear is, what do you think? Did you get them? How much you get them for? You got them? Good. Go out and get me 2 more. That's usually what I hear. But if we're going to make this the right sale, then we need to know if this guy's good or not. I think one of the things that helped me on that too, Patrick, just playing off that for 10 more seconds here, is once I felt like I figured that out and the business owners responded so positively to me in taking this approach too, it took all the pressure off of me. What I mean by that is, this is outstanding. I don't have to sell anymore. I got to get them to sell me. If I can get them to sell me, then they're automatically going to buy it. Why? Because when I put it back in front of them, they have to love it. They don't have any choice. It was their answers. Now, if they gave me crappy answers, then I'm not going to make the sale. But if they gave me great answers, they got to love this idea. So just kind of think about that a little bit, right? It's kind of reversing the way we do it. So the way we try to think about it before we even start the interaction is, first, put yourself in the shoes of that potential customer. If you're the one that needed dental implants, for an example, well, what do you want to know about a dental implant surgeon before you choose one or the other? What's your list going to be? What are you going to come up with? Now, some of you might be thinking right now, I don't know. I don't need dental implants. I've never need them. I don't even know what the hell I'd come up with. Well, try to come up with as many things as you can, but if you can't, don't worry about it. Now, why do I say don't worry about it? Because if you don't know anything about that business or industry, it's okay. Google knows everything about everything. So all you got to do is go to Google and just type in questions to ask a dental implant surgeon, questions to ask a landscape contractor, things to consider before choosing dental implants. There's all kinds trends in new technology in dental implant surgery. All these kinds of things you can do that will immediately make you an expert. Not an expert. It's not like you're going to become going to dental school after this, but at least enough to ask intelligent questions from a customer perspective. What we've done, and take this, guys, if you like it, throw it out if you don't. Once you've helped your reps pick those 3 to 5 verticals that we talked about earlier, then have them spend the time to come up with 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 questions for that vertical. We've got over, I didn't have enough room to include all the questions on here, but we've got over 35 questions for a dental implant surgeon. Here's my first question. Ready? So it might sound something like this. Here's a call opening. Here's a way in Brooklyn that we might walk in the door. If it's a dental implant surgeon, by the way, I'm probably going to go in around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Right? Not going in the morning. The place is too crazy, right? Not calling during the day. The office manager's going crazy. The doctor's busy. You're not going to get a chance to talk to anybody. Even in the afternoon, if I walked in, it's probably going to just be the office manager. That's okay. I'm going to engage that person because I want to see if I can win them over. And if I can, it might sound something like this. Good afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. Office Manager at this dental implant surgery practice. My name's Mike Senrani. I'm with such and such media company here in Florida. You guys can fill in the blanks here. By the way, quick side note, I apologize a lot of times. You don't have to do that. A lot of the books say that don't do that. I do. It's just my own personal style because I know I'm an interruption. I know they don't want to talk to me. I know they were hoping somebody like me would never walk in their door ever. I already know that. That self-awareness, I think, does help. So I will quickly apologize, but then I quickly move on. So I'll say, listen, I'm sorry to call you just out of the blue here. I didn't have an appointment, or I'm sorry to come over here without an appointment. But let me quickly tell you why I want to come over here and introduce myself. And by the way, this is really important. You called just to speak to them. You drove over just to see them. You don't want to use openings like, hey, I'm calling on everybody on this street today. No, we're just coming over just to see them. Make them feel special here, but then get laser specific, okay? Generic doesn't work. If there's one major takeaway I'd like you to get from this session this afternoon, general and generic don't work. Here's what I mean by that. When you say, hey, I just want to come over here and introduce myself because we're doing some really exciting things at our newspaper in terms of marketing and advertising. And I just want to see if I could talk to you about what you guys are doing and, maybe what's working, what's not working, and see if we can help you out. What do you think? All right. By the way, that's the opening that every ad rep that I've ever heard in my life uses. They all use the exact same one. And it's usually like a 1 out of 15, 1 out of 20, 1 out of 25 hit ratio. And look, you can do it that way, but you're not going to be real successful. Instead, get laser specific. And what do we mean by that? Here's what it would sound like again. Good afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. Office Manager at such and such dental practice. My name's Mike Senrani with such and such media company here in Florida. And listen, I apologize for popping in without an appointment, but let me tell you why I wanted to drive over here and quickly introduce myself. I saw something on your website when I was doing some research. Based on what I saw, we may have the ability to help you get a couple of additional dental implant cases per month if you guys could take that on. But I need to ask you this first because this could be critical. Are you guys using that new 3D X-ray cone beam technology? All right, then I'll just stop there. All right, for my skeptical friends who are listening, and you know who you are, that would probably be most of you. It'd be fun to bet you a beer on whether or not you think they'd answer that question, because I know that I would win. The reason I know that, I'm not being cocky with you, but I've had so many years to test this, they will answer the question. Even in Brooklyn, New York, they'll answer the question. In Brooklyn, it might sound like this. Yeah, we do it. What the blank do you care? And that's okay, by the way, because at least they answered the question. Now we can move forward. And I could even say, well, Mrs. Office Manager, it's not so much that I would care, but because of the fact that it's pretty expensive technology to buy and not a lot of dental implant surgeons have it, I wonder if that gives you a little bit of an advantage. So, but let me be specific. Is it true what I read that says that if you are using 3D technology, it allows you to know precisely where to start drilling into the jawbone? Is that accurate? Yes, it is. And you guys have that. Yes. Do you offer any kind of a consultation to make sure that it's a good fit? Because I also read that not everybody necessarily be a great candidate. Do you allow that first? You do. And if you determine after that first consultation that they would be a good candidate, do you mind if I was also to ask, how soon can you start the procedure? Really? So like within a week, you can get things started. All right, this is why I stopped by. This is my moment, by the way, to transition to get the appointment where I'll say, this is why I wanted to stop by, Mrs. Office Manager. If you can do what you just said, and I'm just going to repeat those answers back, that you've got that kind of technology, a lot of other dental implant guys don't, that you'll offer that free consultation. You can tell them on the first visit if they're a good candidate, and you get them started within a week. Mrs. Office Manager, we may have the ability, based on what you just said, to get several more of these types of appointments with you per month. But let me quickly throw it back to you. Is that something you think the doctor might be interested in? Is that something you guys would be interested in? All right. Does anybody want to throw any objections at me just real quick? If you were the gatekeeper, what would you say at that point? I can handle a couple of those real fast if you want. Patrick, I'll let you kind of monitor the chats there and see if anything comes in. And if not, I'm going to go ahead and keep going. But the point is by using this kind of an approach, it's one of the single best ways that we've ever found to get more appointments. And so, you know, as an example here too, one of the things I would recommend is after you come up with that list of questions, before you walk in the door or before you call the guy, here's what you should do next. Look at each individual website. Here, you know what's really cool is if I was going after dental implant surgeons, right? Let's say I picked that as one of my verticals. No matter where you're at in Florida, you probably have 20 of them within a 25-mile radius. What do you want to bet? Or if you pick landscape contractors, there's probably 32 of them in a 40-mile radius or something, right? You go to Google Maps and you can pick, there's your laundry list right there. Now, obviously, you'd have to scrub it, right, to make sure that another fellow rep isn't working with them or they're not already a current customer of yours. But after you have, now you've got a game plan to go out and see X amount per day to try to get, you know, as many appointments as you want here. But before you go to see each one, you need to do like a little bit of a 5-minute review. And here's what I mean by that. Go back to your list of questions and then put a check mark. When you look at their website, put a check mark next to everything they're already telling everybody. If they're not telling them, circle it. And the circles is the thing we want to start to key in on. Prioritize those circles. What's the first most important thing that you would care about? What's the second most important thing? What's the third most important thing? And so on. Like as an example, you know, it's 100 degrees in Florida right now, right? Super humid still. August, still in the heat of the summer. Somebody's HVAC system goes down, right? HVAC system goes down. For some people, it could have been 10 years since that broke, right? It's the first time they've needed anybody in that period of time. They may not have an HVAC guy in the tip of their tongue, but they might grab their smartphone, right? And they might just like read into the, or speak into the phone, just saying, emergency HVAC contractor near me. They might do something like that. But now the next thing they're going to do is see a search engine results page, and they're going to look at what these guys are saying right now. So what do you need to see to make you pick one person over another? Or are you just going to randomly pick the first guy? I don't believe that. I think you're going to look at some of the copy and you're going to decide from there who you want to choose, right? Based on what they're saying. So if you see somebody that says, we specialize in great customer service. Okay, that's great. Nice. But then you see the next guy says, we guarantee we can be anywhere in this part of Florida, whatever city you're in, within 2 hours or less. If you see something like that, that might get your attention. We can repair most HVAC systems 94% of the time on the first visit. That's pretty good stuff, right? We use only our own trained technicians and so on. And so these are buying factors that people would care about. When they click through and they go to a landing page or whatever, there's an opportunity to tell a little bit more of the story there too. You might want to let them know that, look, anybody who comes to your house, if we say we're going to show up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we'll show up within 15 minutes of that time. We'll send you a text message of one of our technicians so you know who's coming to the door. We've done background checks on every single one of these guys. They'll have a logo on their shirt when they approach you. They will have a logo on the side of the truck. During COVID-19, we can do almost 100% of this without person-to-person contact. And I can keep going on and on and on. You see where I'm going with this, but these are buying factors that people care about. If we start to ask the business owner these kinds of questions, and this is the part that's going to probably blow you away a little bit. These questions, by the way, for the most part in the beginning, they're all close-ended. Try reading that in any sales book, by the way. All right, it's not going to happen. But those close-ended questions, here's the coolest part about this. They're going to answer those questions 95% of the time. If that question is specific, significant to their business, I promise you they'll answer it 95% of the time. Another really quick example, then I'm going to jump really quickly to the needs analysis step because I want you to see the things you got to do there too before we call it an afternoon here. Mr. and Mrs. Landscaper, again, my name's Mike Centerani. I'm with Local IQ Media in this part of Florida. I apologize for driving over here without an appointment, but I was doing some research on your company and I noticed something on your website that may allow us the opportunity to help you get a couple of new contracts for landscape design, specifically for residential and commercial. It had to do with your computerized design. So if you don't mind, I was just curious, but would you be willing, based on what you're saying on your website, would you be willing to physically go to someone's home or business, take a photo, and then come back with 2 or 3 different designs that you'd later be able to install for them? All right, I promise you, you're gonna get a lot of answers for this. The key is what you do with that answer. So you've got to transition, right? If they come back and say, well, yeah, if it's within 25 miles, but why are you asking? Who are you with again? Just tell them, look, that's why I want to come over and see you. If you can do A, B, C, D, whatever answers they just gave you, we might be able to help you get a few new clients. I just want to see if this could be a worthwhile meeting. Be careful not to get trapped there, right? Because that's where they're going to say, well, how are you going to do that? And so my quick answer is, Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner, there may be 4 or 5 different ways we can help you now, some things we're doing now that we've never been able to do before. If you don't mind, I'd almost like to see if I could do a little bit of an interview with you first, because there could be some additional questions that some of your potential customers may also need to know the answers to that I couldn't find. If you're open to this, afterwards, what I'd be willing to do is I've got a whole team that I can go back to and kind of fully bake some ideas for you. You take a look at them. If you think it'll make your phone ring, we'll keep talking. If not, you don't have to spend a dime. Would you be open to that? Here's a really cool part. I know he's got to love the ideas when I come back. He's got no choice. They're his ideas. All I've got to be able to do is get this guy to sell me first though, right? So what does that look like? So here's how you want to stay organized in the sales call. There's 5 things you've got to find out here during that needs of analysis part, or else you're going to be kind of disorganized. You're going to be all over the place. You may end up finishing up that whole needs analysis session and not have everything you need to customize a really good solution. The phrase we use is, if you don't get the answers to these questions, it's going to force you to have to guess at your solution. And that sucks, right? Nobody wants to do that. So the very first thing is just try to zero in if dental implants is the #1 thing he really wants, or try to zero in if landscape designs, he may want lawn maintenance instead, right? One dentist I talked to not long ago said, you know what I really want? I want sleep apnea patients. Really? But you're a dentist. Yeah, we're all getting into this now. It's super profitable and I love it. All right, if that's the road he wants to go down, then we go down that road, right? Second, and this is something you might not have thought about in the past, but I hope you take this away from this session this afternoon. Are they good at it? Would you hire them? Make them sell you, because all the things you're going to ask about sleep apnea or landscape design or dental implants, whatever it is, it's designed to help you come up with a potentially more powerful message than they've ever come up with before. It's a really cool part of the call too. I know you saw that huge long list of questions we had. Some of you might be a little skeptical, like, well, they won't answer all those questions. Yes, they will. Yes, they will. That's not even something that's a question anymore. They will absolutely answer those questions, I promise you. And if you got a tough doer that's looking at his watch after about the 4th or 5th question, right? Or let's say the 7th or 8th question, like, hey, where are we going with all this? Why are you asking me all these questions? Here's a really quick tip if you want to write this down. I just did a CNA on Friday here, and I know you can't see this on the screen, but I've got all my questions in black, and all the answers they gave me I put in red print. So use a different color pen. And if they give me a really good answer, I circle it. I put stars next to it. Sometimes I put possible headline. They don't know I'm doing that, but I'm getting ready for when they stop me, or I need to stop the call and tell them what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, what's in it for them. And it might sound like this. Yeah, Mr. Business Owner, I appreciate that. Let me tell you exactly where I'm going with this. And I give them an out, by the way, too. That's pretty cool, right? Give them an out. I even let them out, so we don't have to keep this going. This is completely your call. But let me get your opinion on this. This is why I'm doing this. Tell me what you think. Here's what I just heard you say. Repeat back the best answers they gave you, the stuff that's not on the website. So I just found out in the last few minutes that you can do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Let me cut to the chase because of time. if somebody had just moved, I love to paint a picture so they can kind of see it in their head right now. If somebody just moved to Florida and they bought an older home, they love the home, by the way, but they hate the landscaping. If they decided that they want to get 2 or 3 estimates for somebody to come on out and show them what they might be able to do in terms of landscape design, and please give me your honest answer here. If they could have found out that there's a landscape contractor in this part of Florida that can do what you just told me, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, what's your honest opinion? What do you think about the fact that that could move you right to the top of the list if they knew this about you? What are your thoughts on that? All right, by the way, I've almost never had a business owner ever say, yeah, that wouldn't move them at all, right? They just gave you some of the best stuff they've ever given anybody. At that point, they're like, yeah, that would probably help. Well, sir, that's why I wanted to talk to you today. That's why I'm asking you these questions. If you can do what you just said, and obviously I believe you, we may have the ability to help you get a more powerful message out to the marketplace than you've ever done before. Here's the coolest part. You get to decide if you think we did it or not. We'll put all these ideas together for you for free. And if you like them, we'll keep talking. If not, you don't have to spend a dime. What would you think about that? There's no risk now in it at all for them, is there? But again, let me go back to the last part here really quickly. They have to love it. That's the part you should feel great about. They have to love it. They've got no choice. It was their stuff. The only thing you've got to have is a filter in your head. So every time they give you a boring answer, you realize there's nothing you can do with that, right? It's great to know that they have great customer service. It's great to know they're locally owned and operated. It's great to know that they really care. It's great to know that they're experienced. But that's the same stuff that everybody else says. The better your questions, the better the answers. And the better the answers, the better the ideas when you come back, and the more closes you're going to have too. So Patrick, I'll finish it up with this. The last thing I would ask you to do is go over to that left-hand side too, and don't forget to kind of figure out what we call capability capacity. All right, what do we mean by that? If we're talking about a professional or a contractor or something like this, there's only a finite number of jobs that they can do in a specific period of time, right? So sometimes I'll even ask the business owner, sir, if this works, right, and we come up with something that really starts making your phone ring, I'm wondering if we could talk about that for a few minutes. Like what would be success for you, for example? Like if I got you 50 brand new dental implant patients next month, by the way, I'm not saying I can do that. I'm just throwing a number out. Do you like me? Do you hate me? Do you like, why are you throwing that many to me? I can't handle that many. Or are you thinking, geez, I was hoping you're going to get me 100. Could we talk about that just for a second? And then it's just a simple math equation, right? I'm doing X amount per day now. I could do this much more without changing anything. I don't have to stay open any extra hours. I could do this many more cases. And this is what it would be worth to me mathematically. So if one patient's worth $5,000, because an average tooth is $2,500, the average person has 2 of these done, and he could do 4 more per month, that's an extra $20,000 per month. Sir, would you be open to some ideas? We might be able to get you closer to that number. I'm not guaranteeing that I can do that, but I'd like to have a try or have a shot at that. I got some really smart people I work with. I'd love to go back and brainstorm that. Would you be open to that? And Patrick, I'll finish it up with this. They should be rooting for you right now. If they're not rooting for you, then this probably didn't go real well. And that's a good barometer to kind of judge how good or not you're getting at this process. So with that, Patrick, I know I'm out of time, so I'll throw it back to you. If there's any questions anybody has or comments and they want to pick apart anything we said, they can do that too.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Awesome, especially closing on that piece. Getting them excited about what you're going to come back with, right? So we do have a question posed in the chat. Jim actually posed this question. Based on emerging verticals with money, if you were a rep today during this pandemic, with limited face time, of course, who are you going after? Has COVID changed your sales process at all?
Yeah, really great question. We actually built what we call a COVID tip sheet. We took 33 verticals and we came up with 6 to 7 to 8 call opening questions for every vertical just based off of COVID-19. So meaning that what would be the questions somebody would have to make them feel more comfortable doing business with that kind of vertical during this period of time, right? I kind of weaved a couple in there with that HVAC example where I might even ask, if I was calling an HVAC guy, for example, I might say, sir, hey, just real quick, maybe I'll help you with a couple of additional leads per month, but I need to ask you this first. What percentage of the time can you actually do an estimate for that system to see what kind of work needs to be done, or can it be repaired? Does the whole system need to be replaced without the need for person-to-person contact? If by chance you do have to go into the home, are all of your guys wearing gloves, masks, protection on their feet. Do you guys do any temperature checks before they actually leave your building? So, I mean, we've weaved a lot of those COVID-19 questions in there because those are important to people, right? Some people really want to know that stuff. And then we have all the other questions as well. But to go back to your original question, I just had one of our head people from marketing help us figure this out yesterday. The number one vertical for us right now since June 1st has been healthcare. So healthcare has been through the roof. Home improvement has been number two. So that's all the kind of contractors, that kind of thing. Real estate, believe it or not, has been really high. Mortgage brokers has been really high. So, there are different verticals that are pretty hot right now. And it's just kind of a matter of thinking through it and saying, who's still open for business and who can still operate during this period of time.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And that answer, what you just closed with too, it really melds well with our last session that we had in this series, our first part last week, which Pulse Research was showcased and talked a little bit about which one of those verticals are higher in terms of buying habits right now due to COVID. So thanks. That actually works really well with the information from last week.
Nice. Okay.
Any other questions for Mike before we close today? All right. Well, hey, let me take this opportunity. Special thank you to Mike Centerani. Great job. We really appreciate having you. A thank you goes out to our presenting sponsor, FNAME, and our other sponsors, Blue Toad, Preferred Marketing Solutions, and Intersect Media. We hope you guys all found value in today's session. I know I did. And, as always, please let us know if there's anything we can do to better our VIP roundtables going forward. We'd love to hear your feedback. We look forward to seeing you guys on our third part of our three-part series, which will take place in September. More information to come on that through email to all of you who are on this session today. Thank you very much for joining and have an awesome rest of your day and rest of your week, everybody. Thanks a lot.